Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Speak. My name is Talya Pardo, a transformational life coach and book editor. And I'm so excited today to welcome Ryan Yokome, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, all right. Okay, Ryan is the CEO of Soul Wealth Coaching, an internationally recognized expert in the field of personal transformation. Ryan has helped thousands of entrepreneurs with a spiritual approach for getting out of their own way to unleash their greatest purpose. Ryan is a spiritual entrepreneur, transformation coach, nature lover, and the host of the Soul Wealth podcast. Welcome, Ryan. Thank you so much for being here today. Really excited to have you.
Thank you for having me, Talia. It's an honor. You're
Um,
amazing. I love your energy. I'm very grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I love yours too. I've been, following you on all the socials and I love everything you're doing. So we have so much to talk about. I think we could do a few podcasts probably.
We do.
So let's get started before we kind of get into the meat of things. If you want to maybe just tell our audience a little bit of what you do and how you came to do this, and like we were saying even before we started recording, that there aren't so many men in the coaching sphere. So what drew you to it?
Yeah. Probably my wife. My wife. Yeah, you women are amazing risk takers. Actually, what drew me to the coaching industry is I started coaching when I was 20. I was like 20, like early
Oh
20s.
wow.
And oh my God, I bombed. Like I just could not. I was doing people would come. We were living in a condo and people would come and they would just show up for free and I would like
Oh
teach
wow.
things kind of in like a meeting setting
Right.
and I could never make money at it. And so we ended up, long story short, we ended up joining a network marketing company and started having success
Okay.
with that. But it was my wife, Chris, that was like, we should do this. And I'm
This.
like, wait a minute.
Mm.
No, that's like too risky. So we did it and we had some success. And that led me into coaching and started the business in 2014.
Wow. Wow. And that's how did it feel taking a risk like that? Did you, I mean, it's natural, I think, anybody who starts out with the business to maybe not have
Yeah.
success in the beginning and then
Yeah.
go back to something that didn't go well for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always been a
At
part
first.
of my sole purpose is to
Hmm.
serve people. And when we went into the network marketing industry, like we did well. Like I think we did, like to be honest, I think we did around 350,000 in commissions
Wow.
over like a couple to 3 years. But that was the first time we've had success. And I was working just all with people, just leading groups of teams and large events and stuff like that. And I felt like on purpose, but then eventually it got to a point after a few years where I was craving more creativity. And
Mm.
when you work in a network marketing company, there's like you have to kind of follow certain methods and there's compliance with the company. And you can't do certain
Hmm.
things that you can do in a coaching business. So that's when I decided I really want to venture into the side of coaching and started the business in 2014. It was scary because it's going from that transition from commission based into full-time coaching,
Right.
like self-worth, charging your own money, feeling
Yeah.
responsible for clients. I mean, there's a lot of things that come
Mm.
up for people. And so I
Yeah.
stepped into that space and been doing that, transformational life business type coaching for the last, I guess, 8 years or so.
Wow.
And we've been very fortunate. Like we right away started having good success. I think if you were to quantify it, I think I've worked with people in like 12 different countries around the world, like very global based business.
Wow.
And we've probably done close to like 2.5 million now in sales, somewhere in
Wow.
that range. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful. It's just a
Yeah.
reflection of serving people. But what's interesting is when I started working with people, I thought I was going to teach them about business. But when you got into it, they all were having
Mm.
challenges in the relationships. And so this whole masculine and feminine conversation was like every conversation I was having since 2014 until now. So I'm sure we can have a lot to talk about on this topic.
Oh yeah, well, I've been having conversations and in my own journey recognized, as a new entrepreneur, understanding that I've had to face so many personal issues that have been, I hate to use the word stimulated or catalyzed to the surface because of my business. So, like you said, you deal with, limiting beliefs or core wounds or self or impressions
Yeah.
and knowing your worth because you have to apply it in what you're doing. So how did you guys decide to do it together? Because it's not often you see a husband and wife team or, a couple working together in the coaching
Yeah.
realm.
Well, so funny story behind that. So with both businesses, the network marketing first and then coaching, Chris started the network marketing kind of thing, but then I ran with it. And she
Mm,
started the coaching first, but I really like aggressively started to build it. And
okay.
once it started making good money, she's like, "Oh, I'm all in." You know, like she could see there was a pathway to
Right.
actually changing our lives, she went all in. And so that's when we started working together, but we work together really well. We're awesome in business
That's
together.
good.
Actually, we do more work on our personal marriage
Right.
because we have more conflict there than we do in
Mm.
business. We actually work extremely well in business. It's really fluid.
So what is it about the two of you that makes you work well together in business?
We
Where does
complement
that
each
balance
other.
come in? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So are you the like
she's,
the more driven, masculine,
yeah.
um, and she holds space for all of that to happen and supports it, or
Well, I'll give you a real like grounded, rooted understanding in business. So she is awesome at sales. She's
okay.
so good. And she sells for our company, she sells for other people's companies. And so where I'm really strong is coaching.
Right.
I actually don't like doing the sales. I don't necessarily like to have to like be on the sales calls and stuff. And so she, for a lot of our group programs, will do those calls, but she doesn't necessarily like to have to coach people. So
Interesting. That's
yeah, so
interesting.
we kind of have when as far as business, like we have our divisions and we know what our divisions are that we're strong at, and we just focus on those areas. I shouldn't say that she doesn't like to coach people because she has clients, but
Right.
she doesn't want like a bunch of people to work with. She likes to have her freedom to do what she wants and not be on calls like back to back for most of the
Right.
day. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot, and even that I can almost start to glean out the masculine, feminine energies in that. She still is the support because she is helping to, engage people to bring them into your business, and then you take everybody to the next step, right? And
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
and her schedule, it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like to me what she's doing also gives her the freedom which most women kind of need, that flow, especially if
Yeah.
there's children around and household. Like, we kind of need to be able to manage balancing all of that, in a way that works for us without being overwhelmed. So it
Hmm.
sounds like kind of the best of both worlds, where she's getting that opportunity, and so are you, right, to do
Yeah.
what works best for
Yeah,
you.
and most couples that I know, they don't work together. Like it's very few,
Yeah.
like you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in fact, most women that I've met, I know, they don't. Not everyone has a business that's going to listen to this, but most women don't
Mm,
have a business, and their partners don't. Their
mm,
partners usually working as an employee somewhere. So it's interesting
right.
dynamics. It's really rare to see couples working together in a business.
It is. It calls on a lot of communication and a lot of a very clear conversation. And I know I'm experiencing it myself. I'm just on the cusp of it. My fiance is starting a business, and I'm helping him, kind of like supporting what he's doing, and kind of we're consulting together about it. And we've had to really drill down on being very calm and very clear about what I'm trying to say, so that the other or what he's trying to say, we're both working on that, so that neither of us either it gets offended or feels attacked or undermined, right? Like, what you're saying isn't important, or things
Yeah.
like that, right? Those easy
Yeah.
those conclusions that are so easy to jump to, or the meanings that we ascribe to other people's dialogue, that so that we can not blow up the relationship in order to
Hmm.
work through this
Hmm.
business together, and have a partnership on a different level. So I'm starting to step into that. It is very different.
May
Yeah.
God bless you both.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I can understand where it really calls in all of those key tools from the relationship
Yeah.
into the
Well,
business dialogue.
one of the things I've learned in working with Chris and being married, we've been together now for 22 years and been in business for at least 14 years,
Oh,
is the difference between men and women. Like,
yes.
so, we always ask our clients, would you rather be respected first and
Mm,
cherished second, or cherished first and respected second? And for me, I'd rather be respected. I have no desire to be cherished. But
Yeah.
Chris wants to be cherished.
Yeah.
And so to understand how we communicate with each other is very, very important. And so I know when I'm talking to my wife, it's very important to her that I'm present, that I'm listening, that she can feel me, that I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing her.
Hmm.
These are
Yeah.
just communication practices that we have in our life every day, so we can not end up in huge arguments like we used to. And these arguments used to last like days and weeks, and
Oh,
we'd go to
oh
bed like
goodness.
fighting. And yeah,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
it's been an integral part of our work. And not only that, but the practices around masculine and feminine have allowed us to go from boyfriend girlfriend to engaged to married to having a child now. Like, there's been progression in our relationship,
Right.
which is a sign of commitment. And so the two areas we always focus on are communication and commitment. And if we're good in there,
Mm.
the relationship flows.
Yeah, and I think that's a great rule of thumb to apply in any relationship. While you were talking about that, that's what came to mind is that, through arguments and things like that, what is the difference between a relationship that falls apart or is shaky and not is the commitment to see this disagreement through, right? Not to ascribe
Mhm.
enormous meaning. Of course, when we're talking about healthy people, right? People who are not abusive, and we're talking in the realm of it's a disagreement that may escalate and drive a wedge, but not stepping into abusive realms, right? So,
Mhm.
but if you're committed and to see the relationship maintain its wholeness, right, and to get to the other side of the argument, that's where the communication has to be the priority, right? And not to
Mhm.
just allow the disagreement to take over everything and then dissolve the relationship. But
Mhm.
that's actually something I wanted. I'm happy you brought up the evolution of your relationship because we had discussed it on our first call together, and I'd love for you to talk to us more if you're open to it about for you as a man, because that's part of my overreaching theme for this season is it's very important to me to bring to the awareness of our audience, and I think more to the awareness of the feminine world, the the characteristics and the ways that we can appreciate the contributions that the masculine does bring to our world, to our relationships, to our families and our homes, because I think that that is being maligned in a horrible manner these days. So,
Mhm.
how for you did you go from being a boyfriend for many years? I think you said that it took you were partners for a long time
Yeah, a long time.
until right
Mhm.
to the decision that no, this is something I want to formalize or officialize with a marriage. And
Yeah.
what did that mean for you as a man? Like what changes happened to you?
Sure. Yeah. That was a real fast-paced time of our life. That was in 2018. We got married and we were engaged about a year and a half prior to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might even just been a year before that. So, but anyways, it, there is a deep fear of commitment that I was going to lose my freedom.
Mm,
And I think Chris had a very same feeling. And
okay.
so we never fully committed to that next step in our relationship. And so
Okay.
you end up kind of becoming stagnant to a certain
Right.
degree. So for me, there was a moment, for one, I was working with my life coach and she said to me, like, crap or get off the pot. Like, are you like, what's the deal? Are you
Hmm.
going to get engaged or are you not? Like, what's the deal? And you see this a lot with men. They're very non-committal. I mean, there's
Yes.
so many men right now that are in a long-term relationship and they're not married.
Yeah.
And right. And it's usually from the masculine standpoint, it's a fear of losing the freedom and it's a fear of the commitment.
And is it the concept of like the potential freedom? Because if you're in a couple as a boyfriend and girlfriend, what freedoms are there that you don't already have or have already given up that wouldn't what would change really from one to the other, from one state to the other? What are those freedoms
Yeah.
that are such a
So
worry?
that was my belief for a really long time was that, well, it's the
Mm,
same. If you're married or you're a boyfriend and girlfriend, it's the same. What's the
mm,
difference? And there is a different level energetically that happens. It is. There's like, because I proposed to Chris in Maui, we like bonded
mm.
on a deeper level
Yeah,
of intimacy. And then
absolutely.
And then when we got married in San Diego, so we did this impromptu kind of wedding. We gave everyone 2 months notice, and
Mm.
we flew down to
Oh,
San Diego and got
nice.
married. It was amazing. But there was another level of commitment there. And then we had Noah. It's like another level of commitment.
Mm.
So when we teach masculine and feminine, it's something we've really embodied because we've gone through these stages in our relationship. And they're
Right.
scary, right? Because you're
Oh, yeah.
stepping in like, oh my God, I remember my sister, when she got married, she was getting married and she thought, I could run away right now. I
Mm.
could she was like at the ceremony, and like we all have these fears of like committing, but we see it like committing to the business, committing to our relationship, but then it's the friction that's created with our resistance that we need to break through it. Like the breakthrough is going to create the
Right.
miracle on the other side, but we sit in this like waiting. That's what I did. At least I sat there as a man for quite a while,
Mm.
and God bless Chris's soul, because she probably should have left me. Like, like any
Right.
women that's like waiting on the ring, like you got to make the decision. Right.
Right. Well, and the thing is, I think that when you say like the losing the freedoms, it's the potential of I can leave this when I choose without, any repercussions or obligation
Totally.
to feel any
Yeah.
obligations, right? So that's the
Yeah.
deepening of the commitment. And I know where you're like, I've just recently got engaged. And so I
Yeah.
see it.
Congrats.
Thank you. I see it in my fiance, who I don't think he planned to get married. And then, as our relationship progressed and I let him know that that was actually important to me, I could see those decisions being made and resolved in
Mm-hmm.
his mind. And it has been a different level of commitment even since the engagement.
Yeah.
And so, when we're looking at all those men these days in modern society in today's world who are non-committal or either in long-term relationships without getting married or not even in a serious relationship, in a committed relationship, and are just happy to be on their own, where do like what do you see about them in their masculine energy? And maybe this question isn't going to come out right, so I hope you're going to like catch my drift, but like what is it that they're either undeveloped, not developing about their masculinity or avoiding, that's causing them to stay, like you say, in this stagnant state? Because I
Right.
feel like you really do truly become a man when you marry and start a family. Like
Yeah.
that is really the pinnacle of everything a
Yeah.
masculinity is supposed to embody in terms of protector and provider,
Yeah. Feeling safe,
and
protector,
support.
provider. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so where do you think that it's like an epidemic? I think I was listening to a podcast that said like 60% of
Yeah.
seriously 60% of like
Yeah.
25 to 35-year-olds are not even in relationships or
Yeah.
preferring not to be committed. So like why? Like what is that? Where is that coming from? And I think I have my
Well,
own answers, but I want to hear it from you
if
or what you think.
if for that stat, let's say a guy prefers to be single, it's because he doesn't want to have to deal with the feminine.
And what
It's
is it about the feminine that he
it's
doesn't want to deal
chaotic.
with?
The feminine's
Oh.
chaotic and emotional and unpredictable and
Mm.
crazy at times. And so to the masculine, that's work. It's
Yes.
it's work
No,
to
I've heard that. No, no, no,
it,
I understand that absolutely.
yeah. And so it's work to be present, it's work to listen, it's
Yeah.
work to be engaged emotionally. It's easier for a guy to not have to think, play video
Mm,
games, drink some beer, smoke some weed, and not
yeah.
have to deal with any of that. That's
And
why a
and
guy would stay single.
right. And I absolutely I see that, but I really do feel strongly, and you'll tell me if you agree with me, that the wave of, I don't know what wave are we in, fourth, fifth wave of feminism, like this push of empowering women has exacerbated that feeling, right?
Mhm.
Because women
Yeah.
have gotten louder and more independent themselves, and we can
Yeah.
do everything ourselves and we don't need men. It just, I feel like it's gone further than it needed to go, and that there, not to say that there was no grievance, and we can talk about all of that,
Yeah.
and equal access to opportunity for women, that for sure was necessary, but it like the pendulum swung too far,
Yes.
I think. And I think that it's created a generation of women who behave in a very masculine way, but they're feminine. So like they're masculinizing all their feminine traits. So
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they just make it overwhelming, I think, for
Yeah.
the average male.
I can't begin to tell you how many women I've worked with who are business owners that come to
Mm,
me because they spend so much time in their masculine and they're
mm,
exhausted. They have tension in their body. They carry a lot of tension in their shoulders and their neck
yeah.
and their back. And also, they don't feel like they can trust their man because
Mm,
he's not stepping up. And so, because they don't trust him, they end up taking on the masculine energy.
mm,
And
yeah.
they're the ones now that are going all the time, which builds resentment. So one of the
Right.
main things I work on with when I'm working with couples is dissolving the resentment and bringing love back into the relationship, because typically, usually both partners do, but especially the woman, because she's the one doing everything and has to pay
Mm,
the bills and has to make sure he's okay. And going back to what you originally asked me about, like, how did we change our relationship to go from just boyfriend girlfriend to getting committed?
mm,
We needed to look at the dynamics that we entered the relationship in.
mm,
And at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was 19, I was working landscape, and
right.
Chris was already very in her masculine. And
Right.
so the dynamics that started our relationship was a mother-son dynamics.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, you know what?
So,
It's not a dynamic that you would think can last long, right? At a
right.
certain point, because resentment on one side or the other is going to
Totally.
start to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we looked at that individually and then as a couple of like, okay, this is not serving us, because that was our paradigm where she would kind of take care of me. And then I
Right.
didn't need to
Mm,
think, right? And but she would have resentment towards that. So that was a shift in us where I realized, oh my God, like I'm not stepping into my manhood, my masculinity, my strong conscious leadership, because I basically married my mom. And she's just
yeah.
kind of taking care of me. There's so many similarities between my wife and my mother. It's insane.
Yeah. And I mean, we do tend to seek out what's familiar and, at our core, right? That
Yeah.
familiar image at our core. And so many of us end up with people who are very similar to one or the other parent, often the other sex parent, right? So many
Yeah.
of us
And
end
once,
up with copies of our dads and many men end up
yeah,
with copies of their mothers. Yeah.
totally. It's really common, right? Like women
Mm,
often marry their dads and type energy. But what I was going to say is, Chris and I talk about this when we do like group coaching calls. We say, would you either get laid or would you
mhm,
either get paid from your partner?
mm,
And so Chris, she would rather get paid.
mm.
So
Interesting.
because she's feminine, she'd rather
Mm,
have me take care of the bills, take care of her, be the
mm.
provider, the protector,
Okay.
the
Yep.
supporter, right? And I'd rather get laid. I think I
Right.
don't want, I don't want to get paid from my wife,
Yeah.
right? But the problem with our relationship in the past is we were the opposite. She was the one making the money, she was the one
Yeah.
providing, so she was
Yep.
the one, paying me essentially. And so the relationship wasn't serving our highest from our core essence, because she is core essence feminine, I am core essence masculine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it runs even deeper with men. I mean, I grew up. I'm so glad you got my last name right. Yes, it's Yokome. It's Japanese.
So, okay.
And so I grew up with a Japanese father, like very strict. My
Mm,
mother was a stay-at-home mom, Canadian mother. And, I learned at a young age that it wasn't safe for me to express my
mm,
feelings and who I was and like truly express who I was as a man. And so I just shut that part of myself down. So it's a big part of my manhood that went dormant.
right.
And so it took me like years to cultivate that again. And
Right.
I truly believe this is what has happened with a lot of men. Either they're overly mothered or
Mm-hmm.
their father may have like judged them in some way. So they've actually shut down a part of their masculinity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely agree with the overmothering. We're in this helicopter parenting,
Mm-hmm.
for the last 30 years too, right? So, and I think that's a part that's linked to women trying to feminize men, right? So like feminize, talk about your feeling, like just create these qualities in their boys that they want to see from themselves,
Yeah.
but it's the feminine who's expecting it from the masculine. But what's interesting, or like, I don't know if I can phrase this as a question, but you said about your father who's very strict. So
Mm-hmm.
the one of the kind of stereotypes around masculinity is stoicism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not allowed expression of emotion. And so how do fathers like how do fathers go about getting that right to teach that emotional strength in their boys without it translating into shut it down because you're not allowed to express it, instead of you're allowed to own it, you're allowed to speak about it, but without it being out of control and chaotic, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
How do, like, I don't know, that's a big question. How do we tell fathers how to do that? Because you experienced the opposite, right? You experienced the shutdown.
Yeah.
So it wasn't translated well to you in a way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think it comes to just different stages of masculinity. And I mean, I'm a father, but I'm a father to a daughter. So I don't
Mm,
have a son yet. I actually think
yeah.
that's going to be a very, very interesting journey because we are looking to have our second child. If it is a son, it's going to be a lot of growing, I believe, on my part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
being a father to, at least my daughter, um, it's different than how I would communicate if I had a son.
Right. Well,
It's
first of all, I'll say
totally
good
different
luck because
dynamics. What's
good luck
that?
because girls are, I said good luck. Well, I have two girls, and I just know
Yeah.
that, like, it is, especially girl children, they are just
Yeah.
so much of the emotional
Yeah.
energy, so it is a lot of different kinds of
Well,
communication.
well,
And to raise sons these days, I see that as it's a huge honor, but a huge responsibility
yeah.
to raise boys in this world.
Yeah. So I haven't gone down that route yet. So I wouldn't know, like, I really need to experience it and learn and
Mm,
develop as I grow. So I can't quite speak on that. But what I was going to speak on is may help
mm,
your audience is I hear this a lot is women want their man to step up. They
mm,
desire him, they see his potential. I mean, that's why that women, got with that guy because they saw his potential. And they don't quite understand how to communicate with him.
yeah.
And so a lot of the work that I do with women is just helping them understand how to communicate in a healthy way with your man because they don't understand. And
No.
it
Yeah.
okay.
No, you're
I can
right. No,
give
no,
you
I'm
tips if you want.
absolutely. You're turning this, like, you're going down exactly the road I wanted to
Okay.
go down with you. So please continue.
Well, and the reason why I believe this work is so important is because you women, you help us men grow in consciousness. So if
Mm,
we're in a dynamic, so like Chris and I were of mother-son dynamics, it's disempowering the man, it's emasculating him, so he'll never step up. He'll
yeah,
never reach his potential, but you can help him reach his potential if you understand how to communicate with him
right,
effectively, right? And
right.
so yeah, men are very. I could give you like three tips. I don't know if these would help. So never ask your man what he's feeling. Ask him
Mm,
what he's thinking. You never
mm.
ask him what he's feeling unless he's sick or he's dying. Like
Right.
that's it.
Even then, yeah,
Even
right.
right.
Yeah.
Just
Even
if
then,
he's
it's
on it,
physical feeling. My foot hurts. Yeah, exactly.
yes. Or like he's totally got the flu or whatever.
Yeah.
But if day-to-day stuff, never ask him what he's feeling. Always ask him what he's thinking,
Okay.
and then just listen. So
Yeah.
don't jump, don't coach him, don't try to solve
Mhm.
it, don't try to tell him what to do. The person who's telling someone what to do is the masculine.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
second if somebody tells, like if Chris tells me what to do, I know she's polarized in her masculine. So if I'm
Mm,
not strong in my masculine, it'll polarize me into my feminine,
mm,
right? So
yeah. No, no,
but
no. So first of all, it's my own lessons, and I relate to it, and I really understand it because I know that with men, from what I've learned myself, men need women to be without judgment, to just be there and trust that they can do what they need to do
yes,
without
yeah,
questioning it, without pushing it, without nagging it, or
yeah,
like harpooning them into when you're going to do this and how is
exactly,
this, right?
yeah,
So
and
because that indicates to the man that the woman has no faith in him, and the
doesn't
man
trust his
needs.
direction. Yes,
Exactly, exactly. And so that's when things get polarized because the more the man will pull away from those kinds of questions, or, pushing, steam, or even steamrolling sometimes, then, but
hmm,
it's when it's in balance, then the woman sometimes kind of doubles down and just keeps going, right? And that's where you
right,
get into real disconnect and real shutdown on both ends because
yeah,
the woman loses all faith or has no, doubts everything her man is doing, and he loses his, what's his motivation also, because it's like,
hmm,
why am I doing all of this if she doesn't even, believe
Yes.
in what I'm doing.
Yeah. And that's because guys, so the second would be don't ever tell him you're proud of him because that's mothering.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Mothering.
mothering. Yeah,
He
interesting.
will he will enjoy
Mm,
that if he's in his feminine.
right, right.
If he's in his if he's
Mm,
in his masculine, all us guys want is for us women our woman to listen, and we're gonna
mm,
toot our own horns. We're gonna talk about how
yeah,
great we are and how all of this cool stuff we did or we learned, or that's all we
yeah,
need. We just need
yeah,
our woman to listen to us. And we're not seeking for our woman to say, I'm proud of you, because that would be a very mothering
yeah,
thing to do. If I had a wound, masculine wound where I need my mother's kind of love to make me feel get the approval or make me to feel
yeah,
self-worth, then yeah. But if I'm not in a wound, no, I don't need it. I just need her to be
yeah.
like,
Good job.
yay.
Yeah, yeah. This is
Awesome.
great. This is
Yes,
great.
this
I'm
is
so happy
great.
about this. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no. So my fiance is hyper like super hyper masculine,
Is
and
he?
so
Yeah.
part of our yes, bless him. Um, so it has been a real journey in
Yeah.
learning how to communicate well with him. And
Mhm.
also, when I met him, I was in my own masculine after being a single mom for 7 years and, dysfunctional
Yeah.
marriage before that. So I've been guns blazing, steamrollering. That is what I
Mhm.
know. And I've really had to learn to sit back and rebalance into feminine, which is calm, which is trust. Even if in my mind it's going nuts, it's not going to be productive to show that at all. And that's what I've learned. It's counterproductive. So, and by doing that, I've learned I'm giving him the space to show me exactly what he's made of. And that's how it builds my trust because he does step up.
Yeah.
He does show me what he's
Yeah.
made of. And then that, then feeds into my trust in him so that I can relax even deeper into it.
Yeah, so if that works for you guys, then you've figured it out, like the flow
Yeah.
between the two of you. Chris and I are a little different. There's a movie I watched, or I saw a preview once with Mark Wahlberg, and I guess he was getting out of jail or something with his character, and his partner, his woman fiance or something, was really upset at him. And so she was up on the balcony of this condo and she was screaming and yelling at him. And she grabs this TV and she just throws it out the balcony onto
Oh
the
my
street. And, Chris is like that. She's kind of crazy. Like she's thrown alarm clocks at me and I've had to hide the knives. Like she's
mm,
feminine. And I think the misconception, especially online, is I see this a lot with women is they think feminine means meditating and just sitting there and being calm and still. It's
oh
actually
no.
the
Yeah.
total opposite. It's chaos, it's craziness. And sometimes you need that because if you're not expressing your emotions fully, like you're controlling them, then it's going to bottle up. But if
Yeah.
you, it will actually help your man too. Like he might think like, whoa, like calm down. Like he's going to be like, this is too much, right?
Yeah.
But it will actually get the energy and the flow going between you guys. Just don't do it all the time, but it could be good.
No. Yeah, well, no, I'm not to say that like I just stay quiet all the time. It's
Yeah,
that there are those fluctuations, but I've learned that what's more productive is to express it in a way that he can hear so that he doesn't feel like I'm coming at him with like this arsenal, right?
he'll
So that
grow though. He'll
it
grow though in the arsenal.
fills in. Yeah, he has. I've seen that too, but I
He
try to
will. That's
reserve
where
it
he'll
for really
grow.
like
He
I
probably
don't
loves the peace.
he
He
loves the
loves
peace.
it
That's all he
when
asks
it's
for.
peaceful.
Yes, exactly. But that's what I mean is that is the last resort, right?
Yeah,
Because using it too
yeah,
often it makes everything too stable and it's not healthy. But really, sometimes that last big expression is what makes the next step happen. But it also needs to be mindful that, it
yeah.
has to be done in a way that's not over the top or over,
Every
like
couple,
not
yeah,
constant.
every couple is so different because I know couples who do not fight ever. Like they never fight.
Oh, I don't know that.
And
Yeah.
that's at least they tell me that. But
Yeah.
they're more docile. And then I know other couples
Yeah.
that fight like crazy and they have crazy sex. It's just like
Yeah.
polarized. It's just everyone's so different. But I
High
think,
energy.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think what matters is what you're saying is like you find what works for you, and then that works, between you and your
Yeah.
partner. And then you keep going deeper into that. And then that's what evolves the relationship. Like, you go deeper than the drama. and then it evolves
Well,
things.
that's it, right? When you maintain it also at a level of when it's drama for the sake of drama and everything is about drama or about control,
Yeah.
like there are, nuances to it, right? Are you fighting all the time because one side needs to have the control and the other,
Yeah.
that's a different element. And how
Mhm.
much, energy do you want to put into that? It's about, what I've
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to also express is understanding those are the communication methods. Like what is going to be productive? How are we going to hear each other? And then also, how do we pull it back when it does go over, a little bit above the above board, right? And a little bit
Mhm.
above the line of, it becomes an argument, right? Then how do we pull
Yeah.
it back in the conversations we need to have after?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If it gets really ugly.
Yeah, we don't want it to get ugly. But so this is wonderful. So do the
Yeah.
two of you, you said that she also does calls. Does your wife,
Mhm.
do you ever do them together to work with couples together?
We do, yeah, yeah. We've done a few of those calls together, whether they're like single sessions or group sessions, where we actually are here, actually in my office, and then we're working with a client together as well. And then we've also, well, I've done calls with couples as well. Chris hasn't as much, but yeah, that's
Okay.
always fun because you become the mediator,
Yeah.
right? It's like counseling or therapy, and then the couples start to open up and talk about things they wouldn't normally talk about. So you
Right.
kind of have to intervene because it becomes like an argument. Calm it down.
Yeah. Yeah,
Bring it
for
back
sure,
together.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but it's important that you're guiding them and understanding their own how they're embodying their own masculine or feminine energies and what might
Yeah.
need to be rebalanced,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so,
The last thing I was gonna say is the
yeah.
third thing that I didn't finish off
Yeah.
on is the third
Yes, you
tip
had
for
said three
men
times.
who are listening is your man will if you how do I put it? If you like not necessarily praise, but like when I
Mm,
work, because I work from home, sometimes I get on a call and Chris will be like, "Go kick ass, honey." If you say things like this, it will lift your man up. It will really
mm,
empower him. So if you're always like, if someone's always criticizing him and they're coming down on him and they're bitching and complaining about him, he won't want to spend time with her. And so it'd be better if she started seeing the good qualities in him, empowering him. And like, that's not mothering, that's actually being empowered, like an empowered couple in a relationship. It will raise him up and he'll actually start to cherish her if that's what she desires. So maybe date
right.
nights, doing more things for her and taking care of her.
Right. Well, I feel like that might be across the board for anybody. Nobody wants to be around someone who's just criticizing them and
Totally.
putting them down anyways.
Yeah.
But I think it allows the men, but it sounds like my own understanding, like it allows you to feel safe in a space to open up your heart and your sensitivity to your woman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's part of it is that's I think a little bit of the mistaken impression that a lot of women have because men are less expressive, that they're heartless, that they don't get hurt, that they don't care. When actually the majority of men have really big hearts. They care so much. They try so hard, and to not be appreciated or recognized for that,
Yeah.
and instead to be just maligned for their failings, it's just bringing down men. I think everywhere in such a big way to understand that to go from the provider. And I had this conversation and in another podcast, which is it seems to be a theme that I keep coming back to because I really connect with it and that understanding that the provider is not going out to hunt the saber-toothed tiger anymore, right? Like you're not putting your life on the line. Most men, although there are so many men out there in jobs today that are physically dangerous, right? And who their lives are on the line. And we appreciate that so much, but most modern day men are not putting their lives on their line to provide. And so it's very easy for us to forget that it still is a big challenge for men to provide these days, right? To provide for their family, to create either a successful business or to find a job that is lucrative. And so it is like a battle out in the outside world. And to recognize that in their men when they come home and to show that appreciation or, empower him and encourage him to keep going because he's doing it for us, for someone, for the home, for the family, for the wife. So
Yeah.
it's something that I really try to keep at the top of my mind,
Mhm.
and talk about because that's something I think there's like a lack of appreciation or a taking for granted around men because it's too easy to gloss it over because it's
Mhm.
not readily apparent.
Yeah, and there's definitely a certain stigma with men in society that, you know, they're not allowed to talk about their emotions or they don't have emotions, like you're saying. Yeah, and we definitely have emotions. we we have them. The
Right.
other thing that's going to add is I think men just in general, like for me, one of my healthiest outlets is exercising. I exercise about 6 days a week. I do triathlons and marathons too, and for me, that it's such a strong outlet to be able to get the body moving, and
Yeah.
I think that's a thing that definitely men need. But also, you know, men need other men. Like, you know, I'll listen to a lot of audiobooks like David Goggins or Grant Cardone stuff. And I need sometimes a strong masculine man. And going back to the criticism, men need criticism. If a man doesn't
Right.
have, is not by his partner, no,
Right.
not by his woman. Don't there's,
Challenge. Yeah.
you know, but they need to be challenged. Us guys,
Yeah.
we love that. When we're being criticized or challenged, we step up. Absolutely. And
Right.
without that, we kind of drift. It's like we become soft.
Right. Well, because there aren't any more of those initiations like we've,
Yeah.
those, and I think there are still some, nomadic tribes that do those kinds of initiations for their boys, right? Where they have to go out and bring back a wolf's head, things like I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
stereotyping, but
Something. Yeah.
right, like they're physical initiations, and those are aligned because there was a deep understanding of masculinity and what it is to be a man and initiate into manhood. And I
Totally.
think this is a great time to come to an end. We're going to start to say goodbye to our Soul Speak audience, and we're going to record another 15 minutes or so for the Wisdom Well members, which is an exclusive perk, part of being a part of my of being a part of my Wisdom Well community. So we're going to close it up, and I think this is a great place to close it up to understand that what men need, how, and you gave some great tips about the ways to approach your man or talk to him, and phrase things. And so to close up for our general public audience, I'm going to ask you for a book off the top of your head for my Soul Speak guest recommendation list. And then if you can tell our audience where to find you and how to connect with you, that would be
Yes.
great.
So I'll recommend three books. They're all by David Data, and
Okay.
if any, and even women I know loved reading this book, but it is for men. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. I truly
Okay.
believe every man on this
Mm,
planet should read that book. But like I said, I have lots of friends who are women who have read it and they loved it too. Especially driven women seem to love this book.
right.
Um,
Interesting. Okay.
the counterpart to that is a book called Dear Lover, which
Okay.
it's deep. So if you like
Mm,
romance, like if you're a woman, you love romance type novels, like this will be a
hmm.
really good book for you. And the other one, if you're in a relationship, you want to learn how to communicate effectively with your partner, Intimate Communion is another book by
Okay.
David Data, which is outstanding. That's one of like the best books I've ever read on how like understanding. He goes into the dynamics of the three stages of the relationships. And the first is
Mm,
codependency, basically. The second is a 50-50, which is a roommate
right.
type relationship, very common in
Mm.
today's world. And the third is intimate communion and how you can both be totally connected, full of love, where you're both working together on a really deep level. So those are the three books I'd recommend. As far as everyone connecting with me, you can go to either our website, soulwealthcoaching.com, and then the best place that I hang out is on Instagram, and that's just my name, Ryan Yokome.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You've really brought to light so many elements and characteristics of men and how men and women, the dynamics between men and women, and what women maybe need to bear in mind or understand to help us, coexist, in a
Yes.
more harmonious way, and maybe have healthier and more fulfilling relationships. So thank you so much for
Talya,
being here
thank you.
today, and I look forward to hopefully talking to you again. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.